Hey everyone, in case you can't tell, this is a little bit different this week. I am recording this audio in my garage, aka my podcast studio. I've got a couple of podcasts that I'm trying to get going. That doesn't have anything to do with this. I just felt like the subject matter I'm going to tackle today is too important to talk about while writing because it can get distracting, it can get emotional. That being said, if you have any triggers, here's your trigger warning for PTSD, depression, suicide, suicidal thoughts, sexual abuse, sexual assault, sexual harassment. If any of those things cause you mental anguish, please turn off or leave now. I don't want to cause you any more suffering. But I do feel this is important, so if you can stick around, I would like for you to. What prompted this episode is that about a week or so ago, comedian Stephen Brody Stevens ended his life, and it shocked the world. It shocked the comedy community. It shocked Hollywood. It shocked a lot of people, including myself and a couple of my friends who actually got to meet and hang out with him when he did a show here last year, actually at the end of 2017. They got to hang out with him, and it really hit them hard. I didn't get to hang out with him. I was working, and I'm only vaguely familiar with him. I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan. I appreciate what he does. And if you don't know, he's a comedian. He makes people laugh, but he's also big on positivity, making people feel good about what they're doing, what they're seeing, and how to get out of that funk. Kind of, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. Be positive, that type of thing. I was shocked, but I have to admit I wasn't surprised, just because I kind of have been where he is or was. You see, what a lot of people don't understand about comics is or jokers, class clowns as it was for me, that there's a pressure on you to perform all the time. You're almost required to be funny at any given point, even when you're not feeling funny, even when you've got things going on in your life. Add to the fact that Stephen Brody Stevens had an additional positivity aspect of that, then you've got a double whammy, because now if you're negative and not funny, the pressure's really on. You're a huge disappointment to those people expecting those things. Now, when I was in junior high, I started giving myself this reputation of being a class clown, a joker, funny comedy kind of guy, joke about anything, doesn't care, not stressed about anything, which was partially true. I like to make people laugh. I like to make people smile. I like being happy. I like seeing people happy. But at some point, these people only saw me as entertainment for them. If I wasn't making them laugh or making them feel good or entertaining them, then it was, what's wrong, Toby? You're not yourself today. And on days where I was feeling down, I could say, well, I don't feel good today. But on normal days where I just felt normal, not having to tell jokes and whatnot, I'd get kind of annoyed, get upset, especially if, I was asked 3 or 4 or 5 times during the day. I would actually get mad. And then, of course, being a redhead, people are like, oh, it's because you're red hair. You're mad because you have red hair, which is not, I don't think it's true. I don't think that's true at all. But I had created this reputation for myself where I had to be funny. And so when I wasn't funny, it was like I had done it to myself, because people saw me as the comic and not as the human. So when I look at what happened with Stephen Brody Stevens, I can't help but think that that's what was going on with him. He was funny, he was successful, he was positive, and when those don't always work out, it's devastating, really. It's devastating because you feel like you have no one to talk to, because no one actually understands the real you. And now I've been with my wife for almost 20 years, coming up on 17 years of marriage, and I still have issues when I talk about emotional things that bother me mentally. It's hard to tell my wife that I feel like I want to end it all. And yes, I have had suicidal thoughts several times throughout my life, as early as 3rd grade, from what I remember. And as recent as like last year, sometime last year, I was not in a good place mentally. And yeah, people will tell you, hey, if you feel that way, just talk to me. Just come talk to me. I don't. And yes, I've been that person. I'm going to be this person to you guys too. If you ever feel unimportant, unwanted, unneeded, unloved, contact me and I will listen to you. I can't offer any advice. I'll try not to give you any advice because it's not important. It's not about me telling you things. It's about you telling me things. I can't guarantee that I will be able to help you like you want to be helped, but I can listen. So if you are having these issues, contact me through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. If you have my phone number, call me. If you don't have my phone number and want to talk, I will give it to you. But the problem with people saying, hey, just let me know, talk to me, I'm here for you, is one is the suicidal thoughts and the depression aren't on a schedule. Whereas most people are on a schedule. They have to work, they have things they have to do, they have commitments. And a lot of times they would drop whatever they're doing to be with you, but they don't understand how bad you are, how bad off you are. And as a person who's had those, the second part of that is, as a person who's had the depression and the suicidal thoughts, it feels like a burden. It feels as though it's a hassle for other people. It's embarrassing. It feels like I'm a problem for that person. And yeah, it's a hard thing to come over because you don't feel important. You don't feel loved. You don't feel as though you matter. But the truth is you do matter. It's just the depression is not letting you see past that fog. And I think when it came to Stephen Brody Stevens, that he couldn't see past that fog and he felt like there was no one out there for him. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but that's how I feel this came about because that's how it's been for me. And I assume that it's that way for a lot of you who are listening or watching this right now because every day is not a great day. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, and there's a lot of factors that go into it. Your parents may have not brought you up the way that you should have been. Maybe they did drugs. Maybe they beat you. Maybe they let sexual abuse happen. Maybe they just talked down to you all the time, made you feel unimportant or less than you are. I had a friend of mine in high school. She said her stepmom constantly called her bitch and slut to a point that that's who she identified as. You can only imagine how that played out after puberty. And that brings up another aspect. I want to bring up Terry Crews. Terry Crews came out to the public not that long ago about sexual harassment, sexual assault that he endured from, Hollywood execs because they didn't see him as a person. They saw him as a product, as an object, something to be had, I guess, for lack of better words. And I am incredibly in awe of Terry Crews because it's not an easy subject to bring up because as a man, and this is going to bring up toxic masculinity as well, you're not supposed to have these feelings. You're not supposed to be upset to a point where you're emotional and crying. You're just supposed to suck it up and go on with your life. Bury that pain and never bring it up again. But that's not who we are. We're men, but we're humans, and we have an emotional range. We need to let loose. We need to do something other than scream. We need to do something other than get violent. We need to be able to cry on somebody's shoulder. We need to be able to tell people how we feel. When you bundle up who you are to people, what you are to people, how people treat you, and you don't let that go, you don't have an outlet for that, then you end up in a bad place. I wouldn't be surprised, and I haven't listened to Terry Crews talk about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the edge of just ending it all himself. Because you want to be loved as a human, not as a beefcake or a hottie. You're more than your sexual organs. I wanted to share a few stories with you real quick. I think I've got a little bit of time before it gets real boring. or before I go too long. Anyway, as you guys know, I drive for the ride shares, and I picked up a girl one night, and I usually, when I pick somebody up, I usually say, how's your day? How you been? How's it going? That kind of, just kind of generic greeting. And this one girl, lady, I should say, this woman says, you don't want to know. And I said, actually, it sounds like you need to let something go. It sounds like you need to get something off your chest. I didn't say that exactly, but basically I said, well, from what you said, it sounds like you got a lot you need to get rid of. And so she said, well, all right, here goes. And she just laid it out for 15 minutes or so. She just laid out everything that was going on. She was having issues with her mom, her sister, ex-boyfriend, some other things, relationships and whatnot. By the time we got to her place, she just said, hey, thanks for letting me talk to you. Let me vent. And she actually posted on the app itself, like, thanks for listening to me, or something to that effect, which I thought was really, I was like, I knew who wrote that. I know exactly what happened there. And I hope she got some help, or at least I hope that helped her. The other thing is not as satisfying is, and I mentioned it earlier, that I had my first suicidal thoughts when I was in 3rd grade. I had gotten in trouble. I had a favorite teacher, and I had to do detention and write sentences, and there was talk about moving me out of her class. And so on the back of my sentences I wrote, if I have to leave her class, I'm going to kill myself, or something to that effect, something suicidal about leaving her class. And I think my dad came up there, and I think my teacher talked to her, and they kind of talked to me about it, and I guess they felt like I wasn't serious about it, or maybe I really wasn't serious. I didn't know any other way. I do know that her class was one of the best things in my life at that time, due to things that were going on in the house. None of it sexual, I should say, but being a first child, the parents don't always make the best decisions, and I felt like maybe I wasn't getting the love, and that goes to the toxic masculinity as well. I know my dad has told me he loved me after I said I loved him, but he never offered that, and he came from a very toxic father-parent thing too, so he didn't exactly know how to be a dad either. But I've managed to take what I didn't like about being parented and change that and become a better parent. As a result, I tell my kids every day I love them, I hug them, I kiss them, I let them know I'm here for them. Unlike my parents never really, I don't want to say they didn't make me feel loved or they didn't make me feel wanted, but they definitely didn't make me feel like I could just openly talk to them. And I know my kids don't really want to talk to me about certain things, and that's fine. I just want them to know that they can, and I won't pass judgment or make them feel bad. Because really, when it comes down to it, when you're feeling when you're feeling depressed, when you're having suicidal thoughts and you're having issues, you don't want somebody to solve the problem for you as much as you just need somebody to listen, somebody to recognize you as a human being who has problems and just needs to vent. Now, fortunately for me, as a stay-at-home dad, I have all day where I can just talk. And my 2-year-old, almost 3-year-old, he doesn't care. He doesn't mind because he's busy doing his thing. We interact, but if I have something on my mind, a lot of times I'll just, whatever chores I'm doing during the day, I'm just talking through them. Sometimes I'm telling jokes. I'm writing out jokes in my head, and sometimes I'm just complaining about whatever's going on. And then once it's out of my head, it's gone. It doesn't come back. All right. Well, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I think it's very important. Mental health is very important. And it sucks because if you break your leg or you break your arm, people can see that and they can know that you're going through some healing. But when you have mental problems, when you have issues with depression and suicide and self-doubt and self-worth issues, people can't see that. They don't know what's wrong with you on the inside, which is kind of ironic because I think we all have dealt with that part of it. We have a hard time seeing it in others, but we know it exists in ourselves. So I want to wrap this up for you guys. If you are having these thoughts and you want to tell somebody, but you don't feel like you have anybody, contact me. Contact somebody. If you need my info, get in touch with me and I will give you my info and I will listen to you talk. I'm a pretty decent listener for the most part. I like to talk too, but I can be quiet sometimes. Get help. It's important. You are loved. You are wanted. You are needed. You are important, even when you don't feel that way. All right, guys. Thanks for sticking with me this week. I'm sorry that it's kind of a downer episode. I hope you get the help you need if you need it. I hope you find somebody to talk to. And really, I think that's the first step. Find somebody you can just lay it all out there and they don't pass judgment. They don't do anything but let you do what you need to do. Oh, and lastly, I'm going to close that. If you need a hug, I'm here. I like hugging. I'm a hugger. The only thing that keeps me from hugging people is the stigma. I don't want to show up to a bike meet and just start hugging people left and right. But I will. If you bring me a hug, I will give you one back. I'm not ashamed. All right. Thanks again, guys, for sticking around. I really appreciate it. I think it's important that we all take care of our mental health. I think it's important that we find outlets to bring joy into our lives. I think it's important that we find that person that we can just let loose without judgment. And that's the hardest part. And again, feel free to contact me. I'm here. Most of the times I'll try to be there for you and I'll try to help you find what you need to get better. All right, guys. Thanks again. I'm sorry this has gone so long, but I think it's important. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful week and I'll see you the next time.